Okay, so let's unpack this. We are looking at a source material today that completely defies, well, the usual boundaries of what we explore on this show.
Oh, entirely.
Right,
It's
yeah.
a huge departure.
Right, we aren't, breaking down a newly published scientific paper today, and we aren't dissecting some single geopolitical article. Today, we're pointing our lens at this massive kind of quietly sitting digital artifact.
Yeah, quiet is a good word for it. It's just sitting there.
Exactly. We are talking about a 4.1 gigabyte collection of ebooks, and it's currently hosted on the Internet Archive. So our mission for this deep dive is to sift through this enormous 40-file digital folder and really figure out what its metadata, its file formats, and its highly specific curriculum reveal about...
The intersection of ancient Eastern wisdom and modern digital preservation.
Yes, exactly, that intersection, because it is wild.
What's fascinating here is just the sheer scale of the digital footprint, especially when you consider the subject matter. The archive is titled in this very elegant, stylized Unicode text. It reads Swami Sivananda Saraswati -ebooks.
Stylized text and all.
Yeah, and it was uploaded by a user operating under a Hindi handle, which translates to Shivam Sundaram, back on May 3rd, 2019. Now, looking at the analytics provided in the source material,
Traffic is crazy.
it is. This single upload has garnered over 32,855 views, along with 81 favorites, for a collection of highly esoteric philosophical texts.
That is a staggering amount of organic traffic.
Literally staggering.
I'm just stuck on the beautiful irony of where this information actually lives. The Internet Archive is this wonderfully chaotic, completely comprehensive library of human output.
The digital attic of the internet.
The digital attic, exactly. When you look at the navigation menu surrounding our source material, you realize that the exact same website, housing things like classic MS-DOS games, old ZX Spectrum emulators, and the Prelinger archives of ephemeral vintage film.
That's all on the same servers.
It's also serving as a digital sanctuary for intense spiritual manuals. You literally have ancient concepts of spiritual liberation sitting on the exact same server racks as a playable file of the original Doom video game.
It creates the ultimate digital melting pot. And I think it really highlights a profound attempt to capture the entirety of a specific spiritual worldview and make it available for massive, frictionless public consumption.
Right.
The Internet Archive acts as a modern library of Alexandria, and whoever uploaded this collection utilized that infrastructure to preserve a lifelong attempt by what they call a modern sage to categorize and essentially solve the human experience.
And that brings us to why you, listening right now, should care about a random gigabyte-heavy folder of old books. Whether you are deeply interested in profound metaphysics, or you're trying to understand the historical practical roots of Ayurveda, or honestly...
You just want to focus better.
Yeah, if you are just a professional trying to figure out how to optimize your daily focus and block out distractions, this singular archive contains a blueprint. It's all meticulously categorized for anyone with a Wi-Fi connection. But to really grasp what is happening in this archive, we have to look at the incredibly bizarre mix of metadata tags attached to the upload.
The search tags are incredibly revealing because they seem to pull the reader in completely opposite directions.
They really do. On one end of the spectrum, the uploader has attached these heavy metaphysical tags. We see Sanatan Dharma texts, Kundalini, transmigration, and occult.
Very dense subject matter.
Ooh, super dense. We also see terms like japa, mantra, brahm, and samadhi. And then sitting directly adjacent to those terms, we have tags like nirvana, moksha, and kaivalya. For those of us who haven't spent decades studying Eastern theology, what are those concepts actually pointing to?
Those are the foundational pillars of Eastern spiritual liberation, and they are incredibly dense concepts, like you said. To break them down simply, nirvana is often described as the blowing out of the flame of desire. It's a liberation from suffering.
Okay.
Moksha refers to the ultimate release from the continuous cycle of death and rebirth. And kaivalya is a slightly more specific yogic term that points to absolute isolation or detachment of the pure consciousness from the material world.
Wow.
Furthermore, japa is the practical repetition of a mantra. Brahm points to the supreme universal reality, and samadhi is that final ultimate state of meditative absorption. So these are the absolute highest peaks of spiritual aspiration.
Okay, so we have these tags representing the absolute highest peaks of enlightenment. But then, literally in the same metadata field, the uploader includes incredibly grounded physical tags. We see Ayurveda, health, medicine, drugs, and Even something as mundane as tips?
Just general tips.
Yes. General tips. It's jarring to see a tag for the ultimate release from the cycle of rebirth sitting right next to a tag for health tips and home remedies. How do those two extremes function within the same digital folder?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this metadata is actually giving us the underlying philosophy of Swami Sivananda's teachings before we even open a single book. It demonstrates that in this specific worldview, there is no strict wall between the physical body and spiritual enlightenment.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because in many Western traditions, there is a tendency to view the body and the spirit as two separate, often conflicting entities. The flesh is seen as something to be overcome.
Like a burden.
Exactly, a burden. But the presence of tags like medicine and drugs, right alongside kaivalya, tells us that physical well-being is viewed as deeply intertwined with spiritual progress. You cannot entirely separate the health of the physical vessel from the pursuit of ultimate wisdom.
So the body is treated as the necessary vehicle for the spiritual journey. I actually see that holistic approach structurally built into the core texts of this collection, too. If we look at the foundational series included in the files, there's a massive 5-volume set called The Life and Works of Swami Sivananda.
Right, the core curriculum.
Yeah, and the way these 5 volumes progress mirrors exactly what you just described about the tags. Volume 1 is the biography of a modern sage devotees. So it starts by grounding the entire series in a lived historical human experience. But then Volume 2 immediately pivots to the physical vessel. It's titled Health and Hatha Yoga,
which is the physical practice of postures and breath control. It essentially prepares the body to sit still.
And only after addressing the biography and the physical body does the curriculum move to Volume 3, which is Karma Yoga. Then Volume 4 elevates to Raja Yoga, and finally Volume 5 reaches Bhakti Yoga. Why is it sequenced in that specific order? Why not just start with the mind or devotion?
It acts as a highly intentional, step-by-step curriculum for the human operating system. You start with the biography to prove the path is possible for a human being.
A proof of concept.
Exactly. Then you stabilize the physical health of the student with Hatha Yoga, because a sick or agitated body simply cannot focus on higher truths. Once the body is stable, Volume 3 introduces Karma Yoga, which is the yoga of selfless action and service.
Okay, so actions come next.
Right. The philosophy here is that before you can quiet your mind, you have to purify your daily actions and how you interact with the world. Once your actions are aligned, Volume 4 introduces Raja Yoga, the science of mental discipline and deep meditation.
That's the mind.
Yes. Finally, with a healthy body, purified actions, and a disciplined mind, the student is ready for Volume 5 Bhakti Yoga, which is the path of pure devotion and ultimate spiritual union. It is a systematic climb.
That makes perfect sense. And here is where it gets incredibly interesting for me. We have this massive, structured 5-volume curriculum, and the folder contains deeply traditional, heavy scriptures. We see files for the Brahma Sutras and the principal Upanishads.
Very foundational text.
The Upanishads are ancient philosophical texts that form the theoretical basis of the Hindu religion. They are dense. But hidden in the mix of all this heavy theology, you suddenly find these incredibly modern-sounding, catchy titles. Among the scriptures, there is a book titled Upanishads for Busy People.
It sounds like a modern productivity hack.
It sounds exactly like something you'd see on a display table at an airport bookstore.
Grab it before your flight.
Right. And there is another file simply titled How to Become Rich, explicitly credited to Sri Swami Sivananda. You have a recognized spiritual master writing what sounds like a modern financial self-help book, sitting in a folder of ancient metaphysical wisdom. What is the strategy behind repackaging ancient philosophy into these incredibly punchy, modern titles?
This raises an important question about who this archive is actually for. When you analyze the contrast between the traditional texts and these modern titles, you uncover a highly intentional effort to democratize spiritual knowledge.
To make it accessible.
Yes. Historically, teachings of this magnitude, like the deep dive into the Upanishads or the Brahma Sutras, they were often locked behind strict social structures. They were reserved for the sannyasi, the ascetic, who has formally renounced the material world to live and study in isolation, often in the Himalaya. The archive even uses those exact words as search tags.
So historically, if you were a farmer, a merchant, or someone raising a family, you did not have access to this level of philosophical training.
Precisely. You were busy surviving. But titles like Upanishads for Busy People prove that these teachings are being deliberately engineered to break out of the monastery. They are packaged for the everyday person trying to navigate a frantic, busy modern life.
Because we are all busy people now.
The author is acknowledging that a person with a 9-to-5 job and a family commute still wants to engage with cosmic truths, but they don't have 20 hours a week to decipher ancient parables. They need the synthesized takeaways.
That theme of democratization and breaking down barriers is everywhere in this archive. It goes far beyond just catchy productivity titles. We see a deliberate effort to break down the friction of language and narrative structure, too.
Oh, the translations are fascinating.
Right. There are multiple files dedicated to making heavy, complex epics digestible through simplified storytelling. The folder includes stories from the Mahabharata, beauties of Ramayana, and Swami Sivananda philosophical stories. It takes these massive, sprawling, multi-generational epics and distills them into accessible narratives.
You see that goal explicitly stated in the entry for the Devi Mahatmya. The archive describes this specific text as being the Sanskrit original with a lucid running translation in English.
A lucid running translation.
Yes, that specific phrase is the key to understanding the uploader's intent. Translating ancient Sanskrit is notoriously difficult because a single word can have layers of philosophical meaning. Academic translations often get bogged down in footnotes and linguistic debates.
It can be exhausting to read.
Exactly. A lucid running translation prioritizes clarity and flow. It removes the academic friction and provides a smooth experience for a global reader who just wants to understand the core message.
Well, that philosophy of removing friction doesn't stop at the English translations. You actually see it hard-coded into the digital architecture of the upload itself.
The file formats.
Yes, let's look at the mechanics of how this information is physically preserved and distributed on the Internet Archive, because we are dealing with a dizzying alphabet soup of file formats here.
It's quite the list.
The uploader didn't just dump a few text files into a folder. If you click into the download options in the source material, you see the standard PDF files and you see the EPB files, which are standard for most e-readers.
Yeah.
But then you also have CHOCR files, DJVU files, and torrent options for peer-to-peer downloading.
For someone who just uses normal PDFs, what are these niche archival formats actually doing?
They serve very specific accessibility functions. A CHOCR file, for instance, is essentially a format that relies on optical character recognition.
It means the document isn't just a flat picture of a book page. The text has been scanned and converted into machine-readable characters. This makes the entire philosophical text fully searchable. If you want to find every instance of the word karma across a 400-page book, the CHOCR file allows you to do that instantly.
That's huge for researchers.
It is. DJVU files, on the other hand, are highly compressed scanned documents. They are designed to deliver high-quality images of text over slow internet connections. They're much smaller than traditional PDFs, making them accessible to parts of the world with limited bandwidth.
That explains why the torrent option is there too, allowing people to download the files collaboratively without relying on a central, potentially slow server. But my absolute favorite part of this metadata is the inclusion of the single-page processed JP2 zips.
Those are massive files.
Just to give you an idea of the scale we were talking about, the file for Swami Sivananda Samadhi Yoga in that specific JP2 format is a whopping 513.5 megabytes for one single book.
That's because JP2 refers to JPEG 2000, which is an image compression standard used for archival purposes. Unlike a regular JPEG you take on your phone, a JP2 can be entirely lossless.
Meaning no drop in quality.
Exactly. It preserves the exact visual fidelity of the original scan page down to the texture of the paper and the ink bleed. It is institutional-grade preservation, which explains the massive file size.
Okay, so we have DJVU files for low-bandwidth areas, CHOCR files for researchers wanting searchable text, and massive JP2 files for absolute pristine historical preservation. But beyond all those technical formats, there is a crucial, easily missed detail in this source material that I really want to highlight.
The DAISY files.
Yes. Under the download options, there is a section for DAISY files. The source material explicitly states right next to these files for users with print disabilities. How does a DAISY file actually work in this context?
DAISY stands for Digital Accessible Information System. It is an incredible format. Think of it as a highly advanced digitally navigable audiobook. For a visually impaired user, listening to a standard audio recording of a textbook is frustrating because you cannot easily skim to chapter 4 or jump back to a specific heading.
Yeah.
A DAISY file contains structural markup that allows a user with a specialized player to navigate through a complex philosophical text, just like a sighted person flipping the pages of a physical book.
That's amazing.
They can jump from heading to heading, search for specific terms, and control the playback speed.
So what does this all mean when we put the pieces together? If we step back and look at the presence of those DAISY files sitting alongside the peer-to-peer torrents, the low-bandwidth DJVU files, and the massive high-resolution JP2s, we realize that the digitization of these texts is an act of radical accessibility.
Radical's the perfect word.
It's not just about putting files on a server so they don't get lost to history. We have teachings on bliss, wisdom, and devotion being distributed entirely for free in a multitude of formats specifically tailored to overcome geographic, economic, bandwidth, and physical barriers. A visually impaired person has just as much access to this spiritual framework as a sighted scholar, thanks to those DAISY files.
It is a masterclass in ensuring universal access. No one is left out of the conversation because of technical or physical limitations.
And that concept of catering to everyone applies perfectly to the actual content of the books, too. The collection provides a complete spectrum that spans from the absolute beginner all the way to the highly advanced practitioner.
The range is incredible.
For someone just looking for daily grounding, perhaps someone dealing with a stressful corporate job, there are highly practical guides. We see files literally called daily readings and daily meditations. There is a book titled Concentration and Meditation, which sounds like a required text for anyone dealing with the distraction of modern smartphones.
Right, highly applicable.
And there's one with the very intriguing title, Conquest of Mind. It feels like a practical, everyday toolkit.
Those practical texts serve as the entry point. But if you contrast those daily guides with some of the other files in the folder, you uncover works that are intended for serious, lifelong practitioners willing to explore highly niche disciplines. The archive includes titles like Tantra Yoga, Nada Yoga, and Kriya Yoga, as well as Svara Yoga and Music is Yoga.
Those definitely sound less like airport bestsellers. What do those niche disciplines actually cover?
They get into the granular mechanics of the human nervous system and consciousness. Nada Yoga, for example, is the yoga of sound. It involves meditating on both external music and the internal sounds of the body to achieve higher states of awareness.
Wow, internal sounds of the body.
Yes. And Svara Yoga is an incredibly esoteric study of the breath. It goes far beyond basic deep breathing. It analyzes the rhythm of breath alternating between the left and right nostrils, and how that subtle shift impacts a person's physical and mental state throughout the day.
That is deeply specific.
What this reveals is that the archive doesn't just offer surface-level self-help. It provides a complete, unbroken continuum of learning. It is designed to reward you if you just want to do a quick 10-minute morning meditation, but it contains enough depth to support a rigorous 50-year study into the mechanics of sound, breath, and cosmic energy.
From a 10-minute skim to a lifelong obsession, all sitting inside a single 4.1 gigabyte folder uploaded by a user named Shivam Sundaram. To summarize the journey we have just taken today, we started by analyzing the metadata of a single upload on the Internet Archive. We looked at a platform famous for backing up old websites and vintage video games.
And we found a goldmine.
We found a holistic masterclass in human well-being. We found a collection that refuses to separate the physical from the spiritual, spanning everything from home remedies and basic physical postures all the way up to enlightenment and ultimate meditative absorption. We found a highly structured curriculum packaged in file formats designed to reach every single person on the planet, regardless of their physical abilities or their internet speed.
When you look at the overarching value of this archive for someone like you listening right now, it offers a fascinating counter-narrative to how we usually consume digital media. We live in a world defined by a relentless flood of fragmented information, endless scrolling, and digital anxiety.
So much digital anxiety.
Yet hidden within that same digital infrastructure is this carefully curated library offering a structured path to self-knowledge. One of the specific files in the archive is simply titled Know Thyself. That is an ancient imperative passed down through millennia, now perfectly preserved and distributed on a modern platform whose very architecture is dedicated to the universal, free access of all knowledge. It serves as a profound bridge between timeless human inquiry and modern technological capability.
It creates a fascinating juxtaposition, and it leaves me with a final thought, something for you to mull over as you close out your day. I want you to imagine an archivist, perhaps 1,000 years from now, excavating the deep server racks of the Internet Archive.
A digital archaeologist.
Exactly. They are digging through the code, pushing past the archived social media feeds, the outdated software, and the millions of forgotten memes, and they stumble upon this specific 4.1 gigabyte folder. When they translate the metadata and read titles like Upanishads for busy people, how will they view it?
That's a great question.
Will they look back at that specific title as a profound spiritual breakthrough of our era, where ancient wisdom finally broke out of the monasteries and reached the masses? Or will they view it simply as a humorous, deeply telling reflection of our frantic, modern obsession with trying to save time, even while we are desperately seeking ultimate enlightenment?
That is a wonderful paradox to consider as we navigate our own busy lives.
Something to think about the next time you are trying to speedrun your morning meditation. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we will catch you next time.